my name is Lynn Rudolph and I am a South African-based violist. I have been asked by the students from the ARCO project run by Louise Lansdowne to answer a few questions about myself and also about my journey as an artist and a musician. So first of all, I would like to thank the students for their questions. It has been wonderful to be able to reflect back on these questions, and it's allowed me also an opportunity to reflect back on my own practices. So just a little bit about the ARCO project. It is run by Louise Lansdowne, who is the head of strings at the Birmingham Conservatoire in the UK. So this is lovely work that Louise and her colleagues at Birmingham are doing. So let me start with the first question that has been asked. It is, how did you get started playing viola? So I had played violin actually for 12 years before I started at Stellenbosch University, and we were required to play a second instrument, and the viola was always an instrument that I gravitated towards and would love to play. And I decided now is the opportunity for me to finally be able to play the viola, and I started playing the instrument, and within 6 months I made the decision to change the viola to my first instrument. So at that point I was playing violin and viola on both first instruments, but it is a decision that I'm so glad that I made, and I have not regretted it one day since. Next question is, what do you love most about being a musician? I think the fact that being a musician means that you are an artist, that you are within the arts industry is absolutely amazing to me. I am allowed to freely express myself through my art, and I am in constant connection with other artists and people who think creatively, and that to me is really brilliant. Then you say you consider yourself more of an artist than a musician. Why is that? So I believe that while I am a musician, I am formally an artist, because playing an instrument is not just about the notes and getting the technique right, but really to create art, and that to me is the most important, that I'm always creating. So being a classical musician, you are constantly learning and relearning new methods and techniques and pieces and notes, so it can become quite technical, but I feel that if I am looking at what I'm doing through an artist's perspective, I will constantly be searching for answers and new ways to create. So I think it stems more in just being creative within my musicianship. Okay, so the first person's questions that I will answer is Mbali, and her question for me is, what do you enjoy the most when playing the viola? So I absolutely love the timbre of the viola. I think it's the closest instrument to the human voice for me. I just instantly connected with the viola when I started playing it, and I found, I think, my instrument that I resonated with the most. So I really just love how deep and beautiful the instrument is. Of course, all violas are made differently, but I feel the sound generally is just absolutely beautiful. What are your favorite classical music works at the moment? I wouldn't say that I have any favorite classical works. I am currently on a journey of exploring South African composers and to also highlight female composers. So at the moment, that is what I am currently pursuing within the classical world. And then, what other music genres do you listen to? I try to listen to as much music as I possibly can from different genres, because I believe that as a musician you cannot be narrow-minded when it comes to different types of musics. Although classical music is the industry in which I am, and the circle in which I surround myself with, it is important to be engaged with other types of musics and with other art, because then what you do does not become one dimensional, but is always, consulting with other types of musics. So I enjoy jazz, I enjoy African music, I enjoy samba music, literally any type of music, as long as it makes me feel good and I enjoy listening to it. That to me is the basis for good music. Okay, then next to the city, what is your best memory of all time in the music world? If I had to think of the best memory, I think I have two actually. The first is when I performed on stage, when I performed my concerto on stage with the Stellenbosch University Orchestra, and it was the first time that I appeared as a soloist with an orchestra, and it was absolutely amazing. I had just come back from Italy from a chamber course, and that was in itself a wonderful experience. So when I returned, I really took all the knowledge that I had acquired on my course, I implemented it into my playing, and just being on stage with an orchestra was absolutely wonderful. And then the second was quite recently, this year actually, when I had my first performance as a student, a master's student of the Nelson Mandela University. And I had been studying with my lecturer for quite a few months already. So it was my first performance as a master's student, and it felt like the best performance that I had, because I applied myself to really work extremely hard and to make sure that everything that I wanted to express and convey, that it happened in the concert, and it really went very well. So I think as far as that memory, it was just to see how my hard work for the few months, how I could just see it unfold in front of me on stage. Okay, and then the next question, what is it like to play in a professional setting? So I must say that the professional settings that I have played in have been quite varied, but one of my favorite professional settings to play in is with the Camerata Tinta Barocca. So it is a Baroque ensemble that I play as both violinist and violist actually. And it's absolutely wonderful because you are afforded the opportunity to play and to work with people who are extremely passionate about what they do. And it's not just to come to work, sit down, we play and we go home, but we really exchange ideas and we put our passion into what we are doing. So to play in a professional setting just means to play with professional players who have put in time into their own craft to perfect it. So we are 100% working on how the music can be better. And then the next question is, how was your music college experience? And do you have any advice for those of us intending to start studying music soon? So my music college experience was absolutely wonderful. I would like to think that I embraced all the opportunities that were given to me. But the advice that I would give is just to practice, really. Practice every single day and make sure that you have a schedule that you can consult, that you know exactly what your goals are and what you would like to get out of your university experience, because it can be quite overwhelming getting to university at whatever age and meeting new people, experiencing new things, and then of course still having to study on top of that. So I would definitely say that to get your priorities in line and to make sure you know why you are there, and to just continuously work hard, because university can be any tertiary education can be quite wonderful. You just need to make the best out of it. So if you work hard and consistently work hard, then that is the best advice I can give to anyone. Then next is Njabulo. Njabulo would like to know, do you have a strategy to stay focused when you're practicing? So something that I started when I went to the Nelson Mandela University, I started writing down first of all, my lessons, how that would go, and I would write out a practice schedule. So I would make sure that I know how long I'm going to practice scales, how long I'm going to practice my study, my pieces, and then also goals for the week. So what has helped me a lot within my practice sessions and within the past 2 years has been to map out exactly what my goals are and what I would like to achieve within them. And within having short-term goals, that really keeps you motivated for the long run, because especially now during lockdown we don't have any performances, or performances are quite limited. So really, to make sure that you have short-term goals that you are sticking to and that are achievable, I believe can keep you quite motivated. And then how long and how many hours do you practice daily or during the week? So I would say that I try to practice at least 3 hours a day. Sometimes it can be 2, sometimes it can be 4 hours a day. It all depends on what I would like to achieve that day. So, for example, if I'm moving closer to a performance, then of course I would practice a lot more. And if I have time constraints where I'm not able to practice as much, then I will try to at least get 2 hours in. But generally, I would practice between 2 and 4 hours a day. And then, how have you approached any bad playing habits over the years? So, this is a great question because I definitely feel like I have picked up a lot of bad habits, solely because I have not always applied the correct methods immediately. I've been fortunate enough to have many master classes throughout my musical experience, but knowing that this is the solution, then the problem, and applying it immediately has not always been something that I've done, because it's in human nature to find the easiest possible way to solve a problem. But unfortunately, that's not the best way as a musician. So something that my university lecturer told me at Stellenbosch was, do the right thing correctly the first time. And I think that was amazing advice that I could receive at that time, because now I know that if I do the right thing correctly the first time, I know that I won't have to go back and fix it, because I made sure to practice correctly, to make sure that whatever I'm playing is 100% in tune, that whichever finger frame I'm in, that my hand position is correct, my bow arm, everything the first time has to be right. So I'm really now focusing on making sure that I am always 100% correct with my methods and techniques. Number 4, how do you break down your practice schedule? Example, how long do you practice your scales, pieces, and technical work? So I would say that I try to stick to a schedule of 45-minute slots, where I have 45 minutes to practice and then 15-minute break, 45, and then that accumulates to an hour and a half with a big break in the middle, and then repeat. So to answer, my practice schedule would be 4 45-minute sessions, and I make sure to practice my scales for at least 45 minutes. Then, depending on whether I'm focusing on my study as a piece or only for technical purposes, I would spend 30 minutes to 45 minutes on my study. So I make sure to spend the bulk of my time actually on technique, as that is currently where my focus is right now. So I would say, if you are limited within your time, to make sure that you always practice your scales, so always get your technique done every single day. Then, when you start a new piece, do you have any strategies that you use to learn it? So before I started my masters, I would just approach a piece by taking the piece, looking at the music, and immediately starting to play the notes. But recently I realized and was also taught that you need to approach music from a more musicological point of view, where you understand exactly who the composer is, why the composer wrote the certain piece, and what exactly the music stands for. And that also goes back into my question or my answer of why I refer to myself as an artist, because I am being used as, let's say, a vessel to convey a message. And if I need to convey a piece that has been written about love, but I have no idea that it's been written for love and about love, then how can I convey that message so that I really understand what I am playing and what the composer intended on doing? So, for that, to make sure that whatever I am presenting and how I am practicing my piece, that I constantly have that in mind. So, I would say always make sure you know the history of the composer and exactly the history of the piece. Then the last person we have is Andiswa. Classical music is dominated by males prominently. How do we overcome male dominance in the higher ranks of classical music? Andiswa, thank you so much for asking this question. So, I absolutely love to speak about the female role in classical music, and you are absolutely correct that it is a male dominated world in the classical industry. And I want to just say, firstly, that I believe male composers or males in the classical world can really help a lot to promote works by female composers and to make sure that they are keeping a space for us, that they create spaces for us, but also as women, that we make sure that we create spaces as well. So, not just to expect that our voices should be heard, but to create something that is worth listening to. Because, of course, if we are expected to go against tradition, then it must be something spectacular. And as a woman in the classical music industry, I have definitely tried to find less conventional ways of being an artist. So, I would, for example, if I had a recital, I would make sure to play at least one piece from a female composer, and to also make sure to consult with other female musicians, where I don't just say that I am for classical, that I'm for women in classical music, but that I also promote their work and I really do the work of promoting other women. So I do think that if we generate a community where we are constantly uplifting one another, I believe that would be a great start and a great upliftment for women within our industry. And then Kanye, last question, or second last, as a feminist, have you experienced sexism in music and how did you deal with it? And if that happens to other women, what can we do to change that? Unfortunately, I have experienced sexism within this industry, and I've experienced it mainly within the bigger companies and the bigger corporations, where because I am a woman and because I'm also younger, I am viewed as someone with less knowledge and perhaps someone who is not always equipped to do the job. But the way I have dealt with that is to always go back to my practice room and make sure that I know what I am talking about, that I am well equipped to speak about certain issues, but to also be in a position where I can play knowledge. So the second last question is, as a feminist, have you experienced sexism in music and how did you deal with it? And if that happens to other women, what can we do to change that? So I have definitely experienced sexism within my workplace, and previous workplaces, as I am a freelance musician. I've experienced it in ways where people have doubted my abilities, also because I am a young woman, so I am perceived as somebody who doesn't really belong in a corporation or belong in a place that holds responsibility, because obviously being, this idea that being a woman, you don't have the knowledge that men have. And of course, I believe that is utter nonsense, and we can accomplish a lot. And of course, with whatever resources we have, we will use the opportunities. So I would say that if you are confronted with sexism, that you use that. First of all, you report sexism, because that is not okay. And then you also use that to become your encouragement, and you use the words of negativity to boost you. I have been told on many occasions that I will not make it as a musician, that I don't have what it takes, and I've heard no a lot of times. But I've always taken this, or I've tried to always take this in a way that would motivate me even more to work harder. And I've seen that no matter how much people doubt me, or how little they believe in me, if I continue to believe in myself and I continue to work hard, then people cannot deny my skills that I have acquired and things that I have really worked hard for. So I would say keep on working hard and create spaces and create non-conventional ways to create art. Because if you feel that you don't belong anywhere, or people make you feel as if you are an outsider, then go and create something new. Fight tradition. I think in that way, women can be amazing and create new ways of thinking. Then the last question is, have you ever felt self-doubt, and how did you deal with that? So, of course, I have felt self-doubt. This is something that is quite prominent within the music world. And as a classical musician, because we are striving for such high quality of playing, you can often start criticizing yourself to a point where you don't believe in yourself anymore. But just to go back to what I previously said, if you continuously work hard and you take the opportunities that have been denied, and say for example you really wanted to go and study overseas, or you just really wanted to get into the first round of a competition but you didn't get through, to use that as a motivator to do even more. So just keep on practicing, make sure you work really hard, and really take any opportunities that you get. Of course, there are factors where it's not just as simple to say that the world is your oyster and you can go, because many people are not afforded the same opportunities. But if you have an instrument and you want to become a musician, practice. Make sure you work hard and keep your head close to, keep the eye on the prize. And if you do that, you cannot fail. When you feel like you're failing, get up and try again. So that is my message to you. Thank you guys so much for your questions. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much to Claudia and to Louise Lansdowne. And I hope you guys are all well. Thank you very much.